Okay, hotties, I have got your business tip of the day and something that I want you to remember all week. Grab a piece of paper, grab a post-it note, and write this down. Action is the antidote. Action is the antidote. And a lot of what is happening within your business, within your mindset, would be completely fixed if we had a little bit more action present. Now, I see this a lot working with business owners and entrepreneurs that we want to get stuck into the planning phase continually. We want to get everything perfect before we start. The website has to be perfect. Our office have to be perfect. I can't actually start anything for the new financial year because I haven't planned it. And we feel like that we can't actually move forward without getting everything perfect. And this is a really big block that is keeping you stuck. Now, the reason I say this is because I know some people that show up each day with no idea of what they're doing. They don't have a business plan, but what has actually made them successful is being in action. Now, on the flip side of that, I know people that have created a beautiful pitch deck. They've got their 64-page business plan and everything looks perfect. But the only thing that is missing, and this is the key element, it's actually getting started with it. And it's being in action, okay? Now, this podcast episode was inspired by, I'm going to say like a longer podcast that I actually dropped into my Business Bang Slack channel. And there are a couple of different points that I brought up, but one of those was it can be really hard in business to make business decisions if we don't have enough runs on the board. And a lot of the time, what we're trying to do is make decisions from a still point. But the problem is with this is the basis of our decisions are based on assumptions, and usually these assumptions happen from blocks that we have. For example, we may think that our program is too expensive, therefore we hold ourselves back because we don't promote it. Then we're quiet, no one's saying anything, no one is buying, and then this reinforces the belief that we have people aren't buying because it must be too expensive. And I gave this little assignment to one of my clients. I said to her, I would really love for you to run a free event because I feel the problem that we have at the moment is we can't really move forward without more data. Because what is happening is that the basis of all of our decisions are just coming from assumptions and guesses. And I think what we need to do is just get out there, do a few things, get some data, regroup so we can then make a decision and move forward. And this is what I want to say to a lot of you. Is that if you feel stuck, go out there, get some runs on the board and get some action present within your business. And be really, really conscious of how much action you're actually doing. You know, I've been doing something incredible this week. I have been working in this like little challenge with, on Instagram, her handle is Your Coach Bethany. And what she's got us to do is time track and really see like where our whole week is going and what like where our attention is going, how quickly we're switching hats and how long we're actually taking on particular tasks. And it's been really interesting in doing this, seeing like how long things take. I just want to say, starting a podcast with great video is time consuming, just in case you were wondering, but back on track. So, you know, one thing that I've been doing is time tracking my week. I've been using Toggle and seeing like throughout the day, throughout the week, how long I spend on tasks, how like long I am spending like switching hats and things like that. But the reason that I'm telling you to do this is because I think that you may have some hard truths, realizing that there's not actually a lot of action present. I'm not doubting that you're marketing. I'm not doubting that you're thinking about your business. But when we actually look at, the time spent throughout your week, proactive action to get sales, to get clients, to be visible and drive the business forward, how many hours is that a week? And the reason I say hours is because I think a lot of us may be spending 20 minutes on this. What we actually may be doing is that we're actually thinking about this, but we're not actually doing it. So we want to make sure that we have action present within our business. Now, planning feels productive, but it is not progress. Who has ever felt like that they just need to stop and they need to just, sit down in a quiet room, take an hour and just plan. Let me create a to-do list. Let me just do this. And yes, it feels like that you are getting on top of things, but it's interesting that like oftentimes we stay in this perpetual planning state because it does give us this false sense of productivity that we have order. But what I want to say is you don't want order. You actually want the outcome of this order. So although this feels like, yes, everything on my to-do list needs addressing, what you actually want is everything on your to-do list addressed. So we want to make sure that if we are spending an hour planning, that we at least follow that with 2 to 3 amount of the same effort. So if we are spending 5 minutes writing a to-do list, off the back of that, please spend at least 10 to 15 minutes actually getting something done on your to-do list. Now, the most magical things happens from this. When you do things, you have momentum that will then fuel you for the next few things on your to-do list. So you will stay in that action as a byproduct of doing 1 or 2 things. You will end up ticking more things off your list. So although planning is smart and we must plan in business, we want to make sure that we are not in this state of feeling like that we are spending so long planning. I feel that this can be from a sense of I need control and I don't want to make the wrong mistake. And I don't want to make the wrong mistake so people that it's like they think, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing, but I also don't want to let myself down. And I don't want to feel like that I'm wasting time kind of like trialing things that don't work. So because I don't want to make all of these mistakes, what I'm going to do is I am going to plan as much as I can to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now, I have a little bit of a reframe for you to think about if that is you. And if you are really feeling defiant right now, being like, no, I need to get this right. I want you to think of all of the people that you follow that are chefs and all of the recipe books that you have. And I love watching cooking shows. And it's interesting that you will be creating a recipe that someone just hasn't scribbled down on a napkin. This has been tested multiple different times. And even though this has been tested multiple different times by people that you trust, throughout the whole process, they tell you that you need to stop and you need to taste and you need to check. Like if you are baking a cake, like keep an eye on it. Even if it says set your oven at this temperature and leave it in for this long, it still tells you to check. If you are creating something, it says season along the way and check. And the reason that it is saying this, and it's not saying go and do this and then you will get a perfect recipe, is because it doesn't matter how great your plan is, there is always going to be things, and I don't even want to say that are working against us, because this is just life. Not everything can be manufactured and perfect. It's like you could have tomatoes, but if they're in a slightly different season, the taste and the flavor is going to be a little bit different compared to if it's grown in winter versus if it's going to be grown in summer versus the kind of tomato versus where it's actually grown. And business is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter how thought out your plan is, you can have the most perfect plan, but when you're actually in action and doing it, you are going to spot little gaps that need to be fixed, where you need to add some salt. And I think this is where entrepreneurs can trip up because we feel like, oh, well, if this isn't going to plan and it's not working out, then it's something that I must have done. So let me, instead of keep moving forward through this, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go back to the plan. You got to commit. And I think that it is part of entrepreneurship to keep showing up, even sometimes if stuff isn't doing well. So here's the thing. Your plan is your best educated guess. And yes, you will get better over time doing this, but you are not truly going to know how good, like if this is actually working until you are on the field and you're doing this. You are not going to know how good the plan is until you actually put it in action and you get enough runs on the board, you get enough data to know, oh yeah, this is working. So with that, action gives you data. And in business, as entrepreneurs, what we need to run a successful business is we need enough data. So the cool thing with action, it is giving you immediate feedback. And when we have feedback, it gives us the ability to lean into something, to pivot, to change, to get curious about why it's working or why it's not. It also gives you visibility on blind spots, and this is a real big one. So you all have blind spots. I have blind spots. And what we want to remember is that these blind spots that we have are things that will most likely continue to trip us up in business through our whole entrepreneurial timeline. And I like to refer these as our default mode. So there are going to be some things that we will just naturally default back to. So it could be something where when you're feeling stressed, you're like, let me gain control of a situation. I'll go clear my inbox. If you're doing that at like 5K a month, you're probably going to be doing that at 20K a month or 50K a month. There are going to be things and little habits that you will slip back into. So it could be something where let me go and ask, let me go and listen to a podcast episode, let me go and do this. And the cool thing about when you're in action, you will start to know your blind spots. You will start to be really hyper aware of blind spots. I do this really fun thing where I like forget about basic self-care, like going to the bathroom and peeing and drinking water and steps, getting my steps in until I hit a bit of a snag in my plan or I encounter some resistance. And then all of a sudden I need to pee and I'm aware that I haven't drunk water. I need to go for a walk. And it's funny because my brain will convince myself, well, hold on, for you to be doing a good job and be your most productive self, you should go and do that. And you know what I do? I sit my fucking ass down and I'm like, bitch, you haven't drunk water in 2 hours. You're going to be fine for the next 10 minutes. So why don't we just write this and you can sit with being uncomfortable. And then guess what? After you've done it, you can get up and you can go and do something. So trust me, I battle with this all the time. I battle with this probably every day. So we want to remember that our blind spots don't disappear as we are going each level in business. They just evolve. So it is really good for us now to kind of practice being in action and moving through that because they're not going to disappear all of a sudden when we have hit the goal that we are working towards. They are going to look a little bit different and sometimes a little bit more sinister. So this gives us the ability now to refine and perfect and create a strategy when this happens again, because it is going to keep happening again. So we want to make sure that the little unconscious things that we're self-sabotaging with by not being in action that we address now, because the problem is that is not going to disappear. As we scale, all of that scales with us. So why I am on you is because if you want a big business, and I know that you do, if you have big ambitious goals, if you see and you can feel your potential, all of these sneaky little things that are kind of keeping you out of action and keeping you stuck, that is just going to grow. The antidote to this is action, okay? And as a byproduct, you are going to learn so much about yourself and it's going to make you a better entrepreneur the more that you can move through and do something, even if it feels really uncomfortable, even if you have resistance, even if you can find every excuse and every reason why you should just take a break or you should just put this to the side. And I feel in a way that this whole hustle culture kind of like, it's a hard conversation to have, but it kind of in a way has fucked entrepreneurship because anytime I tell people to just work through a block or like, hey, why don't you just sit down and write that email? I know it feels itchy. It's like, it's really easy for that to then be branded as hustle culture because we want self-care and we want to look after ourselves. But the problem is you are not going to grow if anytime you encounter any form of resistance, you wrap yourself in a little woolen blanket and then you find all of this data as to why you shouldn't do this right now. I'm going to ask you to just lean into discomfort. So with that, stay in motion and get really clear. Where the fuck am I slamming on the brakes? And why am I slamming on the brakes? And don't spend too long on thinking about that because guess what? That is also a block. Let me stop. Let me unpack. Let me unpack why I'm doing this. Where in my life has this come up? Let me do a focus wheel. Let me do a thought download. You know what is going to serve you more than a thought fucking download? Actually doing the thing. Just do the thing. Don't put too much thought into it. Don't unpack it too much. Don't be like, where in my life is this tethered to something that I've done before? Pause. Just go do it. Because let me tell you, do you want to really analytically understand or do you just want the thing done? Because if you just want the thing done, you are just going to be better off to just go and do the damn thing. So what is one thing that you are putting off? Go and do it right now. Remove the need for it to be perfect. Just get it done. You will probably find a reason why you can't do this. Just get it done. Okay? Hot stuff. I love this. I love you. I love you more than how I'm feeling at the moment. My period is due in like 6 or 7 days. And I still feel like I'm in the runway to ovulation. I declared on my stories on Instagram a week ago. I was like, my health goal now is to feel so good that every day feels like that I'm ovulating. I want to feel like in this incredible mood. I want to be fiery. I want to be excited. Like I want that energy. And that's my health goal at the moment. So anytime I'm working with like a new health provider, naturopath, acupuncturist, whatever, whoever, and they're like, what are your health goals? Oh, I want every day to feel like I'm ovulating. And guess what? If they don't get it, I don't want to work with them. That is important for them to understand. So I love you more than that. I love you more than I'm in the conference room at work. Do you love it? Do you love it? Isn't it hot? And it was a bit rainy. We've got like Melbourne City skyline over that way. And it was raining. The city it looked like really moody. And as it was raining, we have these like little metal things that kind of hang off. And the rain was hitting it and it sounded like wind chimes. It was like this little dut, 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 dut. And maybe you heard that when we started the podcast, but it was just really nice and sweet. Because it got me thinking, no one really around here has wind chimes. I'm pretty sure that would be probably quite annoying. But I remember growing up, it felt like that everyone had wind chimes. It was very like whimsical 90s, like that whimsy goth. And I just love it. And I always remember when I was like younger, I always wanted like a house with a beautiful garden and just like some like wind chimes. Speaking of wind chimes, here's a fun story for you. So in high school, we had to do like woodwork as one subject and then we did metalwork as another subject. And I hated it. I did not want to be in there at all. I did not like it. And my dad was doing advertising for this tool shop and we had to like create this wind chime and I wanted the top of mine to be like this flower. And we had to use like, it was like a saw to kind of like cut like the flower, cut whatever shape we want in the wood, right? Mine was fucked. It was so fucked. And I remember that my dad would take me to this tool shop and I would just like wander around because like back then I don't want to say people didn't care about their children, but they were just like, whatever, just like don't die or like talk to strangers. So I'm in this tool shop and I saw one of the saws, but it looked like an elevated saw from what we were using at school. And I was like, I went up to the guy and I was like, oh my God, I need this for my school project. And I think I was like 13 or 14 at the time. And I told him what I had to do. And I said, I needed to cut this shape out. And he's like, we can just do it right now. I'm like, really? And he's like, yes. Anyway, so he cut my shape out of this like wood. And I remember taking it to school and like using it. And my teacher was like, you didn't do that. I'm like, yes, I did. And he's like, I saw the one that you did. And I'm like, well, I redid it. He's like, where? And I'm like, well, I just did it. And he was so annoyed. And I said, yeah, I like project managed it out to like this other guy. Like I project managed it to an expert. How do you expect me to know how to use a saw? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm like a 13-year-old girl who likes reading Vogue magazine. I don't want to be here. And he was furious at me. And I'm thinking, how can you be annoyed when this is like the basis of construction work? Like that is a role within the field of construction, right? And I'm pretty sure he rang my dad and dad was like, she project managed it out. I can't see like what the problem was. And I think that when he's like, oh, okay, cool. Her response is exactly like her parents. There's no fucking reasoning. And I don't think I got 100%, which was very strange because I'm like, okay, so an actual expert did this. Like this system is now flawed. And I'm pretty sure this was even back before we had like the outcomes. You had to meet the outcomes to get a perfect mark. And it was just like out of principle that I just didn't get a perfect mark. Anyway, random story you didn't ask for, but hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hot stuff. I love this. I love you. Have a sexy week. Be in action. Be in action. I love you. Mwah. Bye.